How's it going, guys? It's me, Gamer Luigi, and welcome back to a brand new video. And today I have a pretty trolly deck profile for all of you guys if you want to have fun against your opponents online. So it's a Hint Destruction deck profile which consists of completely taking out your opponent. So if you really want to troll and get some salt to your opponent, use this deck because, disclaimer, I didn't make this deck. Someone else made it, a friend of mine made it and told me, hey, have it here and record it. And I was like very thankful. So I give the credits to my friend who actually made this deck. So let's get into it. So first, before I start, I'm gonna explain the card because last time I did with the Blackluster Soldier deck, I didn't actually explain the cards, I just went through them, so I will do my best this time. But these cards are like very simple effects, and most of them already know. So, Shadow Beast, when it's flipped, you can draw two cards, but then you can discard one. And if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, which it's mostly going to happen because all of this draw power cards, you can draw a card, and you can only activate its effect once per turn. And I'm sorry if I sound sick, because I am. So hopefully it doesn't ruin my beautiful voice. So next we have Snow, Unlight of Dark World. If this card is discarded to the grave by a card effect, if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can target one monster, opponent's graveyard, add one Dark World card from your deck to your hand, and then spell summon that target in face-up defense position. Then we have two Necrophases, and what this card makes it so good is its effect. If this card's normal summon, shuffle all banished cards into the deck, and that card gains 100 attack for each card shuffled into the main deck by this effect. And if this card's banished, each player banishes 5 cards from the top of your deck, or their entire deck if it was less than 5. And that effect is that burns especially your opponent's deck, because there's a ton of cards that they're gonna most likely gonna banish Necrophase from your deck. Now, Brown Huntsman of Dark World, you need 3 of these. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by the card effect, draw 1 card, plus another card if this card is discarded from your hand to your graveyard by your opponent's effect, which is not likely going to happen. The most common it's gonna happen is when you discard it when it's discarded by the card effect, not necessarily by your opponent. Now, Naturia Ragweed, and when your opponent draws a card, except during the draw phase, you can send this face-up card you control to the grave and draw 2 cards, just like a bonus. Like, if you go second and your opponent goes first at the beginning of the duel, and you have this, it's gonna be pretty awesome to just draw 2 cards immediately. Then we have 2 Cyberouroboros, and when this card is removed from play, you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard to draw 1 card. So it works pretty well if you actually banish it, or remove it from play, sorry. It's the same thing. And you can send 1 Dark World monster and draw multiple cards, and still draw a card after sending 1 card to the graveyard due to the Cyberouroboros, which is pretty amazing. Like, this deck has so much draw power, so you should be careful as well when you're drawing cards, because if you throw away the important ones, you might get screwed here. Allure of Darkness, draw 2 cards and then banish 1 dark monster. And quick note, I should recommend you use Allure of Darkness only if you have a dark monster in your hand, and this is here when Necrophase goes into play. And as well, make sure you have a dark monster, because you only have 9 dark monsters and only 1 earth monster. So you either want to Jolo it and hopefully drew a dark monster from those 2 cards, because if not, you're gonna have to send your entire hand to the grave, which is pretty bad because you literally just kill yourself if you do that. Then 1 day of peace, of course. Each player draws one card, but they cannot take battle damage. Cup of Ace, toss a coin. Heads, you draw 2 cards. Tails, your opponent draws 2 cards. So either one of them, it really doesn't affect you, but it really affects your opponent if he actually draws 2 cards. Card of Demise, you know it. Draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, your opponent takes no damage. During the end phase of this turn, send your entire hand to the grave, and you can only activate 1 card of Demise per turn, and you cannot spare summon monsters when you activate this card. And as well, you're not going to spare summon any monsters, because there's no extra deck. As well, this is just a freaking deck out deck. Then Upstart, draw 1 card, your opponent gains 1,000 life points. Dark World Dealings, you draw 1 card, each player draws a card, but they have to discard 1 card. Now Into the Void. As well, keep in mind with Into the Void, like, if you want to activate this, you're going to activate it, but make sure that you do the best you can to actually burn your opponent's deck so low that it doesn't really matter if you have to throw your entire hand to the graveyard, because holy crap. Because you can only activate this if you have 3 cards in your hand, and then into the end phase you have to discard all cards to the graveyard. So this is pretty bad if you actually just end your turn and you didn't know about this effect, but Into the Void is a very common draw power card. But seriously, plan beforehand before activating Into the Void. Then Pot of Duality, activate the top 3 cards from your deck and add them 1 to your hand, and shuffle the rest into your deck, and you can only activate 1 Pot of Duality per turn. You can only spare summon, and you cannot spare summon during the turn you activate this card, so pointless because you cannot spare summon monsters. MST, just in case. Now, Book of Eclipse. Book of Eclipse. God damn it, if I could scroll down without... Okay, Book of Eclipse. It's actually... You just need one of them, but it's really important because you change all face-up monsters on the field to face-down position, and during the end phase of this turn, flip as many defense position monsters your opponent controls as possible face-up. Then your opponent draws equal to the number of monsters flip face-up by this effect. So not necessarily you need the other spell cards, you can actually use this and make your opponent draw more cards by the monsters that got flipped, which is pretty amazing. And then we have Hand Destruction. You just need 2 of those. Both players send 2 cards from the graveyard, from the hand to the graveyard, and then draw 2 cards. And then Contract with the 1,000. This card as well kind of burns your opponent's life points, but not much, because when this card is activated, you both lose 1,000 life points, and if you do, each one of them draws a card, and all cards that are drawn while this card's effect is applied must remain revealed. And while a player's spell card in their hand is revealed by this fact, that player cannot normal, summon, or set monsters. So as well, you have to be careful when activating Contract with the 1,000. Because, I mean, this is just like a last resort, in my opinion. And then we have the Gift of Greed. You must set this Gift of Greeds if you can. Because you cannot activate them when you set them, of course. So, the point of the Gift of Greed is that in your turn, after you burn your opponent's deck so hard, that when it's his turn, and if he activates a card effect, just spam the Gift of Greed you got. And as well, for the present card, that your opponent discards their entire hand, then draws 5 cards. Like, add this up. You have 6. You literally, if you have this 4 cards set down, you literally burn his deck for 11 cards. Plus the cards you already probably burned in your turn. That's amazing. And then he added some Trickster's Reincarnations, even though this card's currently only in the OCG. So if you think there's another card that replaces well Trickster Incarnation, feel free, because not all the, like, I'm doing here in Dueling Book because Dueling Book has access to Trickster Incarnation, well the others doesn't. So only Dueling Book and Jugger Pro has Trickster Incarnation. So you're gonna use that trap card, play them in here. So what it does is banish your opponent's entire hand, and if you do, they draw the same number of cards. Uh, you banished, and you can banish this card from your graveyard. Then target one Trickster monster in your graveyard, but special summon. But seriously, that's not the point of the fact. What you really want to do is to make your opponent banish their entire hand, and make and make them draw the same number of cards they banished. So yeah, guys, that's gonna be this high destruction deck profile. So if you really enjoyed it and think it's gonna work, might as well try it. And of course, I'm gonna make the disclaimer again. I didn't make this deck. A friend of mine made it and shared it to me, and actually told me he won multiple duels with this online. So there's the proof. Unfortunately, I don't have any replays to show, and I don't have the time to do it right now with this deck because I have to do something, and I wanted to record real fast. But yeah, guys, hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like if you actually approve of this deck. Subscribe for more content, and see you all to the next video. Later, guys.